Hey, everybody, welcome back to our virtual happy hour. I'm your host, Avola, founder of Untapped. I'm super excited you're here because it's Thursday. We got one day left to Friday, and that means the weekend. So it's very exciting stuff. But I'm pleased. We're not here to talk about me. No one wants to talk about me. We're here to talk about my amazing guest, Chalonda White, who everyone knows is the Afro.Beer.Chick. And there you are. Chalonda, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
We're super excited to have you. Thank you so much for jumping on. We're really excited to talk all things Chicago beer and everything you've been working on. But most importantly, with everything we do with our virtual happy hour, it's all about the beer we drink. So, Chalonda, what do you have in your glass tonight for your beer of choice?
I am drinking Phase 3 Cram. It's the Simcoe one because I just found out today it's like 15 other different variations. So I'm cracking this one open, and that's what I'm rocking with.
Awesome. Well, I've also got a beer from Treehouse. This is Where Did the 90s Go? This is an older one they used to make here. It's American Pale Ale. It reminds me of the Nickelodeon days, as you kind of remember back in the old days there. So if you're out there right now, crack open your beer, pour it into your glass, and make sure you check into Untapped at the Untapped at Home venue. It's a great way to keep track of what you're drinking and being safe out there, as well as finding out what everyone else is drinking around the way. So I've got this crazy little glass, and we'll raise a glass to you. And cheers, everybody out there. Thank you for tuning in.
Cheers.
Another hazy IPA down the drain. There we go. I love it. So obviously, for people that are not familiar with what you do, Chalonda, give us a background of how you got into beer and how you started with your blog, the Afro.Beer.Chick.
Well, I've been in and around the scene. Oh, God, it goes back to like 2009, 2010. I just basically enjoy drinking beer. And I kicked off with started a chapter here of Girls Playing Out. They had chapters all over the states by the time, I found out about them. Did that for a couple of years and I kind of dropped off because at the time my girls were younger. Started Afro.Beer.Chick about 3 years ago, and I had no intention. I thought I'd just, be a chick who likes to drink beer and talk shit. And that's what I do. And I didn't expect for it to take off the way that it did. So that's just basically what I do. Just, I drink a lot of beer. A lot.
Nothing wrong with that for sure. Obviously, being in the industry and being in this area here, you've definitely kind of living in an amazing spot in the Midwest and Chicago. Tell us a little bit about how that's kind of influenced your style of writing and also talking about beer in your mind, because there's so many great breweries in Chicago. You're kind of in the hotbed when it comes to breweries. How did that obviously influence your decision to kind of write about beer and talk about things that are going on in your neighborhood?
Because it's so much, like I said, Chicago, as far as the city itself, is very diverse. And then, you always have some cities that are, they're really good at making a specific type of beer. And you have some that are great at making different types. And Chicago is definitely one of those cities that if you bounce around, you're going to get great stouts, you're going to get great wild ales, great sours, great IPAs, and it's so much. It's like, and the trend is continuing to grow. And I just wanted to have a perspective, especially because, not only just a woman's perspective, but also, a woman of color, because, it wasn't that many of us, 10 years ago. Now it's like, wow, we're magically we're popping up, say, hey, here we are, we drink beer as well. So I just wanted to have a voice, in this industry since I enjoy it so much.
Yeah, it's so important to get different perspectives on all types of things with beer because, I'm the fitting picture of a normal beer drinker. I got a beard, I'm white, and that's kind of what it is, unfortunately. So I appreciate having your perspective here, talking us through some of the stuff within Chicago that you kind of touched there. If you joined us a little late, we're talking to Afro.Beer.Chick, Chalonda White here. If you have a question for her, make sure you use your platform, YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook, wherever you're watching, to ask a question. We can put her on the hot seat because that's what we do at the show and make her answer some really tough questions and whatnot. So make sure you use those comments and we'll try to get them on the screen here with that. So ultimately, you have your blog, as we talked about before, what you're talking about, but you also have a podcast that you do as well. Talk us a little bit how that kind of evolved from just doing written blogs to more of a podcast style.
Okay, really the blog started because, again, I had something to say, but the podcast started because I really hate writing. I hate sitting down and trying to recap what I've done. So it's easier for me because I have a big mouth. I'm always talking. It's easier for me to sit down and just do it in a form of a podcast rather than the blog. And I need to get back to the blog because there are some stories that are like in my, chest that I have not yet written up. But I'll get there,
I like it. Ultimately, because of your voice and being able to kind of talk about this is obviously we touched on it earlier of the importance of having diversity in the brewing industry, specifically when it comes to women in beer. For people that probably don't know a little bit about this, can you talk a little bit about why it's important to have this diversity there and why you believe that kind of we should have more women-run brewery and more people focusing on those ideas?
Because women kick ass. We're awesome.
Why not? I know that.
Here's the thing. It's why should we be left out of this industry when we enjoy it as well? We have so many great perspectives. There are some really amazing women brewers, women brewery owners. Why should we be overlooked in this industry? Like you said, it's normally guarded as bearded white Jews, but women have played such an integral part in this brewing. Like, for instance, it was women that actually, kicked off the reason why we have beer today. So why keep us out of it now? So it's very important for women to have a voice in this industry.
Absolutely.
I don't know why they work so hard to leave us out. That's my question. Why do they work so hard to leave us out?
I don't know either. That's why we want to talk to you and get your perspective here, because I think it's important to have your voice heard and important for us to be able to kind of promote it as much as we can. But yes, it's a great point. I think that a lot of people out there, know the nomenclature, know the things that beer is known for, and we need to be more inclusive with a lot of things that we do when it comes to that stuff out there. But let's go to a question right now from the audience here. I can't pronounce this person's screen name, but they're asking, what's your go-to Chicago brewery that you'd want to highlight as if you were visiting Chicago the first time and there was no COVID, put you on the spot. What is your number one go-to brewery there?
Oh man, there's so many amazing breweries. You see, here's the thing. When it comes to Chicago, and I often get that question, my first question back is, what part of Chicago are you coming to? Because Chicago has 77 different neighborhoods, and you're going to get something different in each neighborhood. So if I say, okay, if you're going to go to the south side of Chicago, you have Weiner, you have Mars. If you're going to go to the north side, you have Revolution, you have Half Acre. If you're going to go downtownish, you have Motor Raw. We have so many different neighborhoods. So it's it depends on what part of Chicago you're going to go to. But for me, I'm going to say I have two that I run to. I have Revolution and I have Half Acre. And then, I take that back, 3. Maplewood. Those are 3. I can't just pick one. It's like saying which kid is my favorite. It's hard.
Absolutely. Chicago has tons of great breweries. One little known fact about me is when my bachelor party, I wanted to go to Chicago and not Vegas because I wanted to experience all of the amazing breweries in that area when I got married a long, long time ago. So it was pretty amazing to go down that route and all the great things with Chicago. But, one of the things I love the most about Chicago is obviously the pizza. And everyone talks about that from a perspective there. But I believe there is a brewery, and I forget the name of it, that does more of a pizza style and beer style as well. Peace or Pierce?
Peace.
Yeah, yes, exactly. That was an amazing one that I got to try when I was there last time, and it was pretty awesome to see there. Here's another great question we got from Brandon. Brandon asks, "What's the last great stout that you've enjoyed?"
Oh man, hey Brandon, that's my syndicate brother. Black Beer Travelers. I love him. Honestly, Brandon, I hope the syndicate doesn't kill me, but I broke open Eugenia's beer that another member of our group made with Pilot Brewing down in North Carolina. It was really good. So I hope they don't kill me for breaking open that beer without them. I just did that like last night.
There you go. Brandon, that's a great photo, by the way. I love that avatar. So great job on that. That's fantastic. One of the things we talk about stouts here, obviously a lot on people's minds, obviously, is the Black is Beautiful campaign. And, we're doing stuff on Untapped as well for a badge that we put out. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. It's kind of similar as well to the All Together campaign, the other half put together. But ultimately, I love the mission here. I love the ability to do this. What was your kind of reaction when you saw something like this blow up as much as it did with this Black is Beautiful campaign, having many breweries all around the country actually signing up to be able to do this?
Man, I'm so excited for Marcus, for him to come up with the idea and to come up with that notion. That was amazing, and to see it take off the way that it did. I just had one concern. Where I hope that I just didn't want people jumping on the bandwagon just
Right.
because they saw this as a as a financial opportunity. So it's like, for me, it's like, okay, I'm going to hold you accountable. Like, I want to start seeing receipts of people who are donating the way that he requested. But I'm really excited for him because I just read that they sold like 450 cases in like 60 seconds. So
that's got to be a world record or something.
Yeah, it is. Like, I'm so happy for him, and I'm looking forward to tasting it. We have some breweries here that have, they're doing the beer. I have not yet been able to get my hands on it. So trust me, when I do, I'm going to shout it from the rooftops.
Yeah, it's great to see that even like, a campaign like this does meaningful things in the community. I was reading today, Other Half Brewing Company announced that they've got some receipts, like you mentioned, from all the breweries that did their collaboration. They raised over $1 million for COVID relief. So I'm hoping that we can do even more with the Black is Beautiful campaign, raising even more money for it. So that's great to see. It's also like a great collaboration product in the brewing industry. I always make this analogy when we talk about, Pepsi and Coke are not going to come together and make their own soft drink. But at the same time, seeing all these breweries come together and be able to do something is pretty special. And the fact that he just did it on a grassroots kind of movement and he got this kind of reception, it was pretty crazy to see for sure.
Exactly. I'm so excited for him. Like, I'm really excited to taste it. Like, if somebody in Chicago already has brewed this beer, please let me know. I'm waiting.
Yeah,
I know Rev has been talking about it. I don't think they've actually done it just yet, but I know Libby down in Second Chef, Libby Kreider, the Second Chef Brewing, they were actually doing it last week. We were on the phone. I was on the phone with them as they were brewing it. So I'm looking forward to trying theirs. So yeah, I'm just excited. I'm happy for them.
And one of the cool things about this project is not an IPA. So it's an imperial stout. So there's a lot of variation you can do with your own beer. And you see different, chocolate variants coming into it. So, I'm curious to see how many different variants are going to be out there. We were talking earlier about the beer you're drinking. There's like 15 variants of that. Imagine this is a global project. There's going to be a lot of artistic ability and creativeness to be able to kind of come together and make a really cool beer. So it's going to be great to see that as well. One thing we actually added into the app for this particular campaign is a custom list. So if you open up the Untapped app today and you're on the latest version, you can see a custom list of all the beers from all the Black is Beautiful breweries that are going to be part of this and where to find them. So if you're looking for something out there, it's a great way to kind of see what the variants are out there.
Wow.
Very cool stuff. We're excited about it. So let's go back to the questions here, because again, we want to make you uncomfortable as part of the show, and that's how we always want to do it. So.
Oh, you can never make me uncomfortable. You can just come across my page.
Let's go to Alan here, and Alan says, "Would you participate in a Pink Boots this year? Would you in the future?"
I haven't participated this year, but I would most definitely would. I enjoy what the Pink Boots have done. They do amazing work. Those ladies, I most definitely. So if anybody wants to do anything, please let me know. I don't think I have one near me in Chicago, but if we do, I need to find that out. But yeah, I'm always down.
Well, you heard it here first, Alan. So if you got something for her, send it her way. She's all about it. So. Let's go to another question here from Tom Chesney. He said, would you go to a high ABV go-to or a bourbon barrel aged version? What would be your go-to version of a high ABV beer or a bourbon barrel aged beer?
I would have to say bourbon barrel aged beers are like one of my first loving beers. So I'm going that route first. Yes. I like it. Personally, from my perspective here too, people that know me are like, man, you don't drink any other alcohol except for beer. I'm like, yes, that's what I love to do. But I'm not a huge bourbon fan. I'm not a big whiskey fan. I know that you are a big one. I look at the back of you see it all in there. Maybe it's a good question. Just kind of even start from my own perspective is, what is your go-to, if obviously beer is off the table here, what would be your, go-to drink from a whiskey perspective? Is there a style of whiskey you like the most? Is there a mix that you use it in? And what is your kind of go-to from that perspective? You know what? I will say this. Barrel-aged beers was my gateway to bourbon. I didn't always like bourbon and whiskey.
That's a good point.
When COVID happens and being in the house and you're stuck and you're drinking all the time, I went from one bottle of bourbon on my bar. I now have, now mind you, this is just the top of the bar. We're not talking on the sides of each side and under. I now have like 20 bottles of bourbon.
That's awesome.
And mind you, 10 of them were bought within the course of 2 days last weekend. So I'm still trying to find like my ultimate favorite one. But I do, as far as whiskey, I do enjoy the Uncle Nearest. As far as bourbon, I am finding that I really enjoy the E.H. Taylor and the Blantons.
Very good. My own problem with whiskey is it burns, and same with bourbon. It just burns the back of my throat, and maybe I'm just not attuned to it. Maybe I haven't grown the ability to handle it. But for me, I need to just get into it and get into a way. And honestly, COVID is probably the best way to start when it comes to those things, because you're not really going anywhere.
Well, I suggest you kick up with the Japanese whiskeys. They don't have the burn.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Very good point. We got another question here from Catch the Heat, and she said, "Are you considering taking Afro.Beer.Chick on the tour post-COVID? Would love to connect in New York City. So, any plans on a tour for Afro.Beer.Chick?"
Man, I was supposed to travel pre-COVID, and I was so upset because for the first time in my adult parent life, I had all my trips paid off. I was ready to travel, and then COVID happened. So most definitely once I feel more comfortable with traveling, because I'm not just there yet. I'm not even ready to sit on the patio with people just yet. So once I'm there, most definitely. But I want to bounce around. I have the travel bug. I want to get out and enjoy it as much as possible. So yes, I definitely want to go hit up, New York City. I want to hit up Asheville, North Carolina. I want to hit up the West Coast. I want to do as much as possible.
Yeah, I have the same situation for me, is that I'm usually traveling very often. Untapped's turning 10 years old this year, actually, believe it or not. We usually have tons of events on the East Coast, but that's not happening. I'm the same way with you. In the state of Connecticut, we're in phase 2 where you can have outdoor dining as well. But as a parent, it's just tough. It's a really tough thing, which kind of leads into another discussion about COVID in a sense. We've talked about this numerous times on the show. But what is Chicago doing in terms of the breweries there to help facilitate just anything happening with them? Because ultimately in New York City and things of that nature, there's not a lot of space, and Chicago's a little bigger, obviously. But how are they doing this? Is it more like curbside pickup, beer to go? A lot of breweries have tap rooms and no food. How is that being handled in Chicago when it comes to COVID?
They have been allowing. We've had curbside pickup since COVID kicked off, and I know that they were pushing for the patios, and other patios I think they recently opened. People have been hitting up the patios, so. Yeah, I am happy that they have been able to do that during this process. They haven't completely shut down, because I know we would have lost way more breweries than we have. Right. And we had one to close, altogether, and that was Argus on the south side of Chicago. But then again, they don't have the ability to have it. They didn't have the ability to have a tap room. They don't have a patio. So right. I can see why it hit them pretty hard. So we've been doing a lot of curbside pickup, and now patios have been open. And the mayor, I'm really happy with the fact that she just didn't jump into it. She allowed, street closings for, those businesses, so they can have more room to spread out. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in Connecticut, they just passed a law that allows breweries to distribute and sell directly to consumers. So you can order online, have it delivered to your house. Is that something that is even possible in Chicago, or is it more you got to go to the brewery and pick it up? There's no direct to consumer ability from that perspective?
Oh no, they have it. They have it through where certain breweries are delivering through Grubhub here, or Caviar, or Postmates, and then you even have bottle shops where you place your delivery and they're delivering to you within a certain distance. I'm far, far, far away north side, so I'm not privileged to any of that. I have to go actually get up and go pick up my beer. But I will say this, and this is where I have to shout out Revolution, because John Carruthers has made a few trips up to me to drop off beer, so I have got to show him much appreciation for that.
Revolution is great. I remember going there. The food there is great. The locations are great. The beer is great. It's awesome. So glad to shout out there. Speaking of Chicago breweries and stuff, we talked about some of your favorite breweries in there, but what are the top couple of beers that are on your kind of like this is where I want to go to. I need a beer. This is what I'm going to have. What Chicago breweries and beers kind of spike up to your top as your go-tos in this kind of pandemic situation that you always got to have on hand?
Man, okay, so I know Supermassive just came out, and I had tried Supermassive back in October when I was a brewer for the day with Revolution. But man, when I say that beer is amazing, and I wish I had a fridge full of it. That is my beer on the stout end. As far as the IPAs, I have been gravitating more towards phase 3 lately. So that the pixel density, the creme, so between those two.
Sounds good. Yeah, I think it's interesting that you mentioned a darker beer because I feel like everyone talks about these days with the haze bros, the haziness days, everything. Personally, my perspective, I'm getting a lot more into the lagers and the pilsners recently. She's had something different from a taste perspective. Do you feel that that's the same way in most breweries are kind of going to from your perspective? Is obviously you cannot make a New England IPA because that's kind of what sells right now. But do you feel a lot of brewers are trying to push the boundaries and trying to get outside of that, just making a hazy IPA and that's all you do?
I think basically what breweries, and you can't fault them in a sense with the crazy economic times that we're in, they're brewing beers that they know that's going to sell and keep the lights on. I get that. But then you have some brewers that are willing to push the envelope and say, hey, we have these other styles. So it's like, that's what I love about Chicago, because you're going to get from everything. Like Dovetail, they do the lagers, very well. And then you have Revolution. They do amazing beer. Marty Scott is amazing with the Vera program over there. Then you have phase 3 and Hot Butcher that, I gotta give, Hot Butcher as well. They do amazing, New England IPA. So I think people are trying to stay in that lane right now because it's what's keeping the lights on. But I feel that once this is completely over, they're going to start pushing that envelope once again.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. From that perspective, you got to make money and you got to do it well in this situation, the climate. So you got to give what the people want. The brewing industry is a very consumer driven situation. You give the people what they want, and that's how you make your money. But I always like to harp on some breweries that are doing something different and doing lagers and pilsners, which, let's face it, in the summertime, those crisp beers will just hit the spot. Whether you're outside mowing the lawn, if you have a lawn or whatnot outside, that's really where it's going there. So it's cool to see some of these people get back in that game and try to do what they can to make ends meet when it comes to the beer styles from that perspective.
Right. So you're in Connecticut, right?
I am in Connecticut, yes.
Have you tried Rhythm Brewing?
I just discovered them. I reached out to them on Instagram probably a week ago. I have not. I know they were doing some contract brewing and they were trying to open up in New Haven, but I haven't had a chance to try their stuff yet. So it's on my list to do that. I live in the middle of nowhere pretty much. So, I live about 15, 20 minutes from the nearest civilization town area. So for me to go out there, it's going out there for a trip and stuff like that. So I definitely want to check them out. I remember talking with them earlier, so I'm looking forward to trying some of their stuff as well. Yeah,
Elisa's doing some great things with the lagers. So most definitely check them out.
I will. Let's go to another question here. Put Catch the Heat Up number 2 on the screen for the second time. How has your palate changed over the years since you began to drink beer? Did you start out always in where you are today, or how did that grow?
Man, let me tell you, my first beer was a Sophie from Goose Island before they sold. Okay, and Sophie, y'all know Sophie was a Belgian style. So for the longest time, all I would do was Belgians. I wouldn't do IPAs. I didn't do stouts, and then eventually I tried a stout, which was my first stout was from Southern Tier Creme Brulee. Then I started loving the stouts. So it's amazing how my palate has changed because I went from loving the sweet pastry stouts to the not so sweet, pastry stouts. Just give me something that's straight to the point. I have found I still don't like porters. If people follow me, they know how I feel about porters. I say porters are like tasteless brown water. I know people say, hey, porters are stouts. Yeah, whatever. Porters, they don't do anything for me. The sours, I taste them to, just to give them a try to see if something is going to change my palate. But it definitely has changed over the course of the years. Even with IPAs, because I remember I couldn't stand IPAs. Now I love double IPAs. I love to taste the hops. I love to taste the bitterness in it.
Yeah. I was actually the same way, to believe it or not. My first beer I ever had in the craft world was Rare Voss from Brewer Embiging, which is a really complex beer for a first time jumping into a Belgian strong dark ale. So I'm kind of the same with you, but the Greg from 10 years ago would laugh at the Greg right now, drinking this beer that he can't see through right now and saying, "What are you doing? That's not good." I'm like, "Yes, it is, Greg from the past. Get with the program." So I think, overall, everyone's palate has changed significantly, also related to new styles. I mean, this New England IPAs didn't exist back when I started drinking beers. And I think that's a testament to the people that are brewing these beers and kind of stretching the boundaries when it comes to the different styles and stuff out there. So it's pretty cool to see in that avenue there. Let's go to another question here from David. It said, "What's the best Belgian beer you've had?"
You know what? I'm going to say the one I had last night from Perennial. That was amazing.
There you go.
It was a Saison de la. Oh God, I've been drinking La Stew or whatever, but oh my God, it's a Belgian style. Oh my God, it was so good. So it's from Perennial. It was great. Matter of fact, when we get off of this, I'm gonna go get another one.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next question here from another user. Said, "Is there a type of beer that you'd recommend to someone who doesn't like beer, aka my wife?" So I'm sorry to hear that, but what would you recommend from that perspective there on that side?
Honestly, I would say Belgians are the first style because of the fact that you get the citrusy, you get the fruit. That was the one that turned me when I had the Goose Island Sophie, because you got the citrus taste. It didn't really taste like beer, and from there they can build their palate. So for me, I'm going to say Belgians.
For me, if I want to answer this question, I'm not really supposed to. I'm the host here, but I'll answer it anyways. And then I'll say that my wife wasn't really big into beer when I first started getting on tap. She's a big wine drinker, and her connection was sour beers. So sour beers were the connection for her. So I always say people ask these questions is, what do they like to drink? And then you can kind of find a connection point from that perspective there. Because for me, it was sour beers and ciders for her, and that got her into other things as well. So that's the answer to that question from my side. But another question from Jennifer. Jennifer said, "I'm nearby in Milwaukee. I believe they call Milwaukee the little Chicago." I heard that a couple of days ago.
The best Chicago suburb.
But what do you think? What are your favorite Milwaukee brews that you enjoy in this area?
1840. 1840 is great. When I went up there on a day trip, I went to 1840 and Black Husky and Third Space. They're really good. I didn't check out City Lights when I was there, and I was right down the street. But when I go and visit my grandmother in a couple of weeks, I'm definitely going to hit them up. Hopefully they're open. But yeah, 1840. I would say of my faves, 1840.
Sounds good. Well, we got so many questions rolling in now. If you want to ask a question for the Afro.Beer.Chick, please use your comments on your platform, Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, and we'll try to answer them. We'll throw another one up on the screen here from Adam. And Adam says, "The Legend of Planet of the Elder is epic. Have you had it, and what's your opinion?"
Oh my God, I haven't had it in so long. I can't tell you my opinion because I don't. If I remember correctly, when I did try it, I was already kind of slushed. So for me to tell you that, it would not be a fair assessment.
You heard it here first, Adam. She's not sure. But I will tell you, as someone who's had this pretty recently, it is pretty amazing. It is a drinkable double IPA that you don't get a lot of bitterness. It's not hazy. It's a regular straight up IPA. So if you get a chance to get it, you go for it. And that's what I recommend from that side. So thank you, Adam, for your question. We really appreciate it. I think, the crazy part about what Planet of the Elder used to be is it used to be the go-to IPA, the white whale, the everyone wanted it with heady topper. And now it's these hazy IPAs are kind of taking over that realm. But you can't forget about the oldies but goodies when it comes to Planet of the Elder. So that's a great one out there if you had a chance to do it. I think, the proximity of that beer is also difficult too, because out in the Midwest in Chicago, you're probably not going to get that anywhere on draft. The only area that I can see it in the East Coast is Philadelphia, is the only city on the East Coast that has it. So shout out to Philly. If you're in there, definitely go to a Monk's Cafe, go to the back bar, and then order the Planet of the Elder. It's always on draft. So if you want it, that's where you're going to go. So But yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty amazing to kind of see the growth of craft beer in everywhere around the world. And I think that one of the interesting things about Chicago is just the sheer number of breweries in the area. I mean, I remember going there multiple times, and you always feel like I've never got a chance to visit everywhere I want to go because there's so many of them that are good. We talked a little bit about breweries that you wanted to visit. What are the up and coming ones that have just come out recently? Obviously, in COVID, it's very difficult. That kind of have perked your interest as like an up and coming brewery that hasn't on the radar of people just yet, but should be relatively soon.
I mean, I know Inglewood on the south side of Chicago has been going through some recent issues. I've been rooting for them to open up. I went out to Black Horizon in the western suburbs, like right before this COVID thing happened.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited, to get more about them. And Whiskey Hill, and also in the western suburbs, they've changed ownership so much. But I'm really excited about the brewer that they have, Eric Flores. He used to brew at Goose Island. He was the one who actually created Prop last year's Prop. So if you enjoyed it, he's now at Whiskey Hill and he's doing great things out there. So I'm really excited to see what they're doing. But as far as new breweries outside of that, I really haven't heard of any more opening up within the city limits. But there are so many breweries within the Chicagoland area that I have not yet, tried it out because it's like they're constantly pumping up.
There you go. So next time, once COVID lifts and you need somewhere to go, you just tag her on Twitter and she'll give you everything you need to know as your personal guide for Chicago breweries. So you heard it here first, right? Let's go to another question here. Here is from Chavez A94. What beer myth do you think that nerds needs to be actually entirely debunked when it comes to the beer industry? What beer?
Oh, y'all want my honest answer on that? That Black people don't drink beer. we need to get rid of that one right there because we
absolutely. Absolutely. I think that is a big a myth that we're trying to kind of to accommodate with all these amazing things that have come out of the Black is Beautiful campaign and things of that nature. Yeah. But yes, I think that's a very important one to talk about as well. Here's another one we got here from Marcello. He said, with many home brewers are not concerned with clarifications, but the visual analysis is important. What do you think regarding that particular statement there?
You know what? I don't really know, to be honest with you. I'm stumped on that one myself. That's the most honest answer I can give you. I'm stumped on that one myself.
I like it. I like it.
I really don't know.
Here's another great question from another person that has asked before. What's your favorite breweries in the suburb? We talked a little bit about the city limits there. When we get to the suburbs, what are your favorites there?
Oh, man. Open Outcry. They're in like Evergreen Park, far south side. That's like when I'm going to visit my mom, who lives in like where I grew up at, far south suburban area of Chicago. Horse Thief Hollow is really good. If you want to jump over into the Indiana side, of course, I used to live like 10 minutes away from Three Floyds. So yeah, most definitely, Three Floyds. Let's see here. I'm gonna say those are my top as far as the suburbs. Oh, God, Hailstorm in Tinley Park. They're good as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, let's go back to a little bit what we talked about before about diversity and inclusion, and I want to get your take about what it looks like right now in Chicago. I know we've talked about this from a national perspective in terms of the Black is Beautiful campaign coming from San Antonio, Texas, but in your perspective, what does this look like in Chicago from the breweries and their progress from that perspective by trying to get these topics here?
I'm going to be honest with you. For Chicago to be the most segregated city, the industry here, they have been very welcoming and loving here as far as, the first game. Now, I would love to see more Black brewers. I would love that when I walk into a brewery, I want to see a Black brewer and not someone who's just working in the bar. Right. But Chicago, when it comes to our various, breweries, they're very open and they're very welcoming. Now, we go outside of the city limits, that's when it becomes a little bit more questionable because of the things that I've personally seen and have endured.
Yeah. Absolutely. At least, we see some progress and you see some things. That's an important part, but we're always not done with these things. We always want to continue to improve upon it and learn and talk and be open to the conversation. So yeah, it's a really important thing. So I'm glad that you're here. So you've seen some progress. We always got stuff to work on and continue to move forward.
Oh yeah,
so.
we have a lot of stuff to work on. And that's the thing, it's like, we have to stop just having a conversation. We have to have more action. Right. So now I'm at the point, I don't know if people have followed. I'm at the point now. I'm not doing any more diversity and inclusion panels. So let's put that out there. I'm not doing any more diversity and inclusion panels because I'm done talking. I'm done talking about it. I want to see action. I want to see more people of color in these breweries who are working. And you can't tell me that no one is interested, because I know people who are interested and who have gotten turned down for jobs that I know that they qualify for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense that, we can talk here until you're blue in the face, but if you don't make actionable movement toward it, doesn't mean anything from that perspective. So, but thank you so much, Lana, for being part of this conversation today, this virtual happy hour. Really appreciate your perspective on things. I had so much fun. And I had a lot of fun too. I want to give you a chance to give any last plugs where people can find you and anything you want to say before we close out here.
Well, everybody can find my loudmouth ass on all the social medias. Afro.Beer.Chick. Okay, you're on the website. And definitely check out I need to upload my podcast today. This Chick Talks Beer. So yeah, there you go.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lana. We really appreciate it. And thanks for being part of the show.
Thank you.
Awesome. That was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for watching. I want to give you a few updates on what's happening on Untapped TV for scheduling. This Saturday, we're going to be talking to Phil, who is the member of the Brewer Oma Gang, for our Sessionable Saturdays. It starts at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. So check us back in for that. And then after that, we're going to be talking to, on Tuesday next week, a really cool friend of mine, Paul Shim, who's a beer photographer, talking all things about taking that perfect picture that we all love to see and that creamy boginess in the background. So we're super excited about that. If you have any questions or concerns or even comments or suggestions, let us know at media@Untapped. Would love to hear your feedback about the show. And if you want to listen to the audio version, we also have that available at untapped.tv, and anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can grab it there. Thank you so much for watching tonight. Cheers to all you people out there. I've finished my beer. Hopefully you have, and stay safe out there. Cheers.